What is going on, Browns fans? The offseason might be quiet, but the front office is clearly just getting warmed up, and you are not going to believe what is brewing behind the scenes at Berea. We are looking at potential shakeups that could change the identity of this team before the season even kicks off. From high-profile roster moves to a surprising quarterback dilemma that nobody saw coming, the situation is absolutely electric. Stick with me because you need to hear these updates right now. Smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment below. Let's dive into it. The mandatory veteran minicamp and the entire off-season program have officially concluded for the Cleveland Browns, marking a quiet period in Berea before training camp kicks off in late July. While the facility may be empty for the moment, the work for general manager Andrew Berry remains relentless. The off-season landscape in the NFL is never truly static, and Berry, alongside new head coach Todd Monken, spent the last few weeks evaluating the full roster during OTAs and minicamp. This evaluation period has set the stage for potential future moves, following the massive headline-grabbing trade that sent defensive star Myles Garrett to the Los Angeles Rams in exchange for Jared Verse and 3 valuable draft picks. The front office is clearly monitoring the roster composition with a focus on future flexibility and long-term sustainability. As the team transitions into the pre-training camp phase, the focus shifts toward which maneuvers might follow. The departure of Garrett has already demonstrated a clear willingness from the front office to recalibrate the roster to prioritize younger talent and future assets. With the departure of such a significant playmaker, the conversation now turns toward other potential trades that could reshape the squad before the season gets underway. Whether through offloading veteran talent that may no longer align with the long-term age profile of the team or bringing in low-risk reclamation projects, the strategy remains fluid. The Dawg Pound. Faithful are watching closely as the team navigates this delicate period, waiting to see how these strategic decisions will impact the competitive readiness of the squad heading into the upcoming season. Every move made from here until the start of the regular season is another piece of the puzzle for this roster. One intriguing possibility for a trade involves star cornerback Denzel Ward. Trading Ward would certainly be an unpopular move among the fan base, especially considering that the return on investment for a cornerback would likely be significantly less than the massive package received from Myles Garrett. However, Andrew Berry is clearly evaluating the roster based on age and long-term utility. This tactical approach is precisely why the organization moved on from Garrett to secure the 25-year-old Jared Verse and additional draft capital. Because Ward is approaching 30, his timeline within the roster becomes a point of potential friction. While it might make logical sense to keep him on the roster to evaluate how the season develops, the reality of the business could force a different hand. Contending teams around the league often find themselves desperate for high-level cornerback play as they push for playoff spots. If the organization decides that moving on from Ward is the correct strategic path, a transaction occurring closer to the trade deadline in November would arguably yield better value than a decision made in the heat of June. By waiting, the team could potentially maximize the return from a squad that is making a desperate late-season push for a title. This perspective acknowledges the reality of the business while keeping the focus on the specific assets currently on the payroll. Whether or not this materializes depends on the team's standing in the division as the season progresses. The front office is balancing the need for veteran experience with the desire to maintain a roster that can remain competitive for several years to come. Every trade calculation starts with evaluating the specific trade value against the long-term benefit of keeping the player. Another major storyline involves the quarterback room, specifically the ongoing competition between Deshaun Watson and the developmental talent Shedeur Sanders. The quarterback position is always at the center of attention, and the situation here is no different. Throughout the offseason, Shedeur Sanders has shown significant growth, putting himself firmly in the mix. However, the reality of the NFL is that not every team can sustain multiple starters, and Sanders may be viewed more as a high-end developmental prospect rather than a traditional backup. ESPN's Jeremy Fowler has indicated that if tension arises in a scenario where Sanders loses the competition, the Browns could facilitate a trade to clear up the room. While Dillon Gabriel is technically part of the mix, he has largely remained on the periphery despite flashing some potential during the final days of the mandatory veteran minicamp. Andrew Berry has gained a reputation for being active with preseason quarterback trades, and if the team reaches an internal consensus on the starting role before the start of training camp, moving one of these arms could be the most pragmatic solution. This matters right now because the efficiency of the quarterback room directly dictates the team's offensive rhythm. Having clarity on the depth chart is essential for Todd Monken to implement his playbook effectively. By potentially trading a surplus arm, the team could avoid unnecessary tension and shift its focus entirely to the primary starter, streamlining the roster for the upcoming challenges. This type of move is purely about resource management. If the competition results in a clear winner, the organization must decide if keeping the other player provides enough value or if trading them for assets is the superior move for the franchise's health. Beyond the major names, the team is also looking at smaller tactical acquisitions to bolster the roster, such as the potential move for Dallas Cowboys outside linebacker Sam Williams. Williams, a former second-round draft pick, has struggled to find his footing in Dallas, and his role remains somewhat undefined despite signing a one-year deal to return there. Andrew Berry has shown a distinct affinity for reclamation projects, players who are still young and possess untapped potential that can be acquired for a low cost. At only 27 years old, Williams represents the kind of low-risk, high-reward flyer that could pay dividends if he finds the right environment in Cleveland. The defensive front, even before the departure of Myles Garrett, could have benefited from extra pass-rushing depth. Bringing in a player like Williams would provide an injection of fresh talent without requiring a massive commitment. This matters because depth is the silent killer of NFL seasons. Injuries happen, and having experienced, hungry players who are capable of stepping into rotation roles is a hallmark of consistent teams. Williams fits the profile of a player who could thrive with a change of scenery and a new system under the defensive coaching staff. If Berry can facilitate a low-cost trade, it addresses a specific need for pass rush versatility while adhering to the team's broader strategy of accumulating young, affordable assets. It is a calculated gamble on a player with draft pedigree who simply needs a new start. By targeting players like Williams, the front office is consistently working to improve the overall talent level of the defensive unit. This move would illustrate a commitment to maintaining competitive depth, even in a transitional phase for the team's pass rush. Ultimately, the work for Andrew Berry in this 2026 season is about navigating the fine line between immediate competitiveness and long-term roster sustainability. The departure of Myles Garrett set a precedent for how this organization handles veteran assets. And every subsequent move, whether it is deciding the future of Denzel Ward, managing the competition at quarterback, or taking a flyer on a player like Sam Williams, is an extension of that philosophy. The team is in a phase where they are constantly weighing the potential for immediate production against the acquisition of future assets. As the players break for the remainder of the summer, the front office remains hard at work, analyzing every corner of the league for opportunities to improve. The decision-making process is methodical, relying on data and the specific team needs identified during the minicamp sessions. Fans of the Dawg Pound should expect a proactive approach to roster management. As Andrew Berry has proven, he is not one to sit idle during the quiet months of the offseason. The goal is to ensure that when the team returns for training camp in July, the roster is not just complete, but optimized for the challenges of the long season ahead. Whether through trading away established veterans or bringing in hungry, young reclamation projects, every move is designed to put the team in the best possible position for success. The focus remains on maintaining a high level of talent across all positions, while keeping an eye on the fiscal and developmental future of the organization. As the calendar approaches the start of the preseason, all eyes will remain on the front office to see how these potential strategies ultimately materialize into the final 53-man roster.